Well, the volume control on this GoPro is not real good when you're talking with the waterproof back on. There's not a whole lot of possibility of me getting water all over this thing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and try it without the waterproof back. They provide you a second back for when you're not in an area with water or dust or dirt or something. So we'll give this a try. So I'm still on the ninth row. I'm going ahead and doing some stitches. This video is not really to show you anything other than to test my volume control. But we'll go ahead and talk about, we're going to, I'll show you with the next stitch what we need to do. And here's where we go. Whoop. Okay, so you stitch pulled tight. So just to show you how you do the stitches, you're go ahead and hold your thumb where you used to be on the last stitch you just did. Go under your measuring stick, go up through the next mesh, then you're going to flip this over so that you got a big loop around. Then you're going to go under and come up under both parts of the mesh, then come between the two parts of the mesh like this. Pull everything tight and make sure you're where you're supposed to be before you pull your thumb and do the final pull, and then you go from there. Pull that knot as tight as you can, and you'll keep doing that until you get to the end of the line. And this is again my ninth row. On our 10th row I'm going to do some widening stitches, and we'll probably try to measure this after we do an 11th row to see where we're standing, because I'm using a wider net than I was before. I was using 18-inch rims, and after looking at some old ones that I had and obtaining more of the wire in a longer amount, I've got 171 feet of wire for less than $20, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the larger rim. Yeah, just looks like a good size. I didn't like the 24-inch; they were a little bit too big, and just kind of picked 22 inches because it seemed like a good number. I had the 18-inch before because that's the size of the nets that I had in the garage, and I went with the same size. And then when I found some other old nets, better nets that weren't real good. They were actually thin wire and kind of warped out of shape, but they were about 22.5 inches. So we just kind of followed them pretty closely. So we'll see. We're in an experimental stage, not real sure if this is going to be a good pattern or not. I can tell you this string is a lot harder for me to work with than what I was using. The first time I used just the braided nylon, I wasn't doing this double knot that I'm doing, and most of the knots slipped. So I didn't think it was a good viable option. Then I ordered this stuff and then started using, watched some more videos and found someone that talked about this particular stitch that I'm using, and I started using it, and it works great even on that on that just braided unbonded nylon. And I might go back to that. This stuff is a little stiffer. Kind of like to see how well they both, the difference in the lasting power of this material in the water compared to the other. If there's no big difference, I'll go to the material that is easier to work with, and use it instead of this, and also readily available at the local Academy store here, and not having to order it online. Not that it was a big deal ordering it online, but you spend almost as much in shipping as you do in the string, and you have to wait a week or two for the material to come in. So we'll see. But again, we'll continue to do these stitches. I think this material kind of hurts a little more to me in pulling it. Not as much as the first one I made a couple of weeks ago when I started doing this. Trying to remember how to do this after years of not doing it. Tying the knots hurt the fingers real bad, particularly right here on your index finger, where you're kind of holding that string. Go ahead and pull some of these loops off of here, so make it easier to work with. And again, this is relatively simple stitch. It's just rather repetitive, and it takes a little time, not much, but pretty much only stitch you'll use, other than tying the lines together to add new lines. But everything else I'm using the same stitch, including when I stitch this stuff together, one side to the other. So, well, we're getting towards the end. We'll get back with you when I see how well this works.